in Spanish, the word firme means a lot of things, something firme, well done, good foundation, solid, right? But you bring that word to the US and it has a completely different meaning. Like your podcast, brother, it's firme. It's badass, basically, You see a lowrider car, you see a Lamborghini or whatever that might be. It's like, hey, that car it's firme, It has a lot of meaning to it. You talk about a person who's like, hey, Marcos is un vato firme, it's trustworthy, loyal. You can, you know, depend on him. You see a nice looking lady, hey, that girl's firme, she's cute, she's hot. So it has a lot of meaning.
All right, guys, we're back. Another Mezcal Buzz Experience, and I'm sitting here with Alberto Ochoa of Mezcal FIRME. We've been planning this and talking about getting you on the show for a long time, so we're very excited to talk about the brand, the journey, and talk some mezcal. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you, man. I've been looking forward for this, for this day for a long time, man.
Cool.
Follow your Instagram and your YouTube channel, so super happy to be here.
Thank you, and I like that interaction that we've communicated for a while through I was gonna say through the Instagram. Gonna sound like an old guy over here. The Instagram in my day, but like we communicated there first, yeah, through IG. Got that awesome gift box set of the 3 mezcales.
That's right, yeah, that's right.
And yeah, we're here today. So we're going to start by serving up some mezcal. I want to start with the ensamble because you did mention, like, let's start with the ensamble. Can you tell us a bit about the ensamble as I pour?
Absolutely. This is the original batch from 4 years ago. Same original old label. We already have a new label that we sold it out through that batch. So this bottle, I actually brought it from my house. It's very special. I'm a big fan of Tobalá. And of course, launching the company was, what's something that could be balanced for new mezcal drinkers, consumers, which is, a basic, easy to drink espadín. But I wanted to mix it a little bit with something that I'm very, in love with, which is a nice Tobalá. So it's a 60-40 blend, 60% espadín, 40% Tobalá, coming in at 46%. I work with, our Maestro Mezcalero and co-owner and my partner, Jorge Cortés de Santiago Matatlan. Saludos, Maestro. Show me the ropes. We drank a lot of mezcal before the first bottle was ever produced, as a research, of course. And, we're very proud of what we accomplished. Our espadín, which is back there, and our ensamble de dos agaves, we actually launched it as a core product or portfolio, you could say. So we only focus on the first 2 years, year and a half almost, only on those 2 bottles. That's it. Espadín 100% and un ensamble Tobalá-Espadín.
Awesome.
And, he showed me basically how to, the whole process from la tapada, putting los agaves, la planta, and el horno cónico, start early in the morning, go through the whole process of taparlo, cortar las piñas, light up the fire, and then, get to work. And we ended up with something that we felt right off the bat that was very special. It's a easy to drink ensamble, not overpowering in a lot of smoke. Something that you're a mezcalero, that you probably heard, a lot of in the industry. They try to relate mezcal with the, tequila smoky cousin and all this and that. So that's something that wanting this to be a business, I wouldn't say that we try to change the, the recipe in any way or form, but that was something that we kind of focused a lot, like there's something that people can enjoy without being scared of it, something easy, something frutal, citrusy. And I think that the blend, it just works out, man. And
I'll say that for sure right off the bat, it smells fantastic. Like you said, it's very fruitful. It's herbal. So it smells great. So I like to taste that.
And believe it or not, this bottle is almost 5 years old. Still keeping, its nice body and character. And this is the original first label that we had. We ended up changing it to something a little bit more matte. We noticed, obviously not being an expert in the industry, that any photography or, stuff that we try to do with a metallic label, it was very reflective and it didn't quite work out. So you learn as you go. But yeah, this bottle would be almost 5 years old. Believe it or not, it's still holding its character.
A great start then, a great start in opening right now. So a special bottle. Salud.
Salucita. Thank you, brother.
Um, let's talk about the origins of the brand. Mezcal Firme, it's a brand that's centered around culture. It's SoCal Chicano culture. And I know you mentioned that mezcal plays a big part in your family at the table, the background of where you were mentioning Puebla, Guerrero, Michoacan. So
Zacatecas.
definitely mezcal is, how would I say, centered in the family. But tell us about how Mezcal Firme fits in your home at home in California, how it started.
I honestly, for the name Firme, I have to give credit to a personal friend, Bruno Julian Lopez. He's now a school teacher. Very thoughtful when it comes to doing creative things. He takes its time. He doesn't want to rush. So when I reached out to him as a personal friend, I was like, hey brother, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? It's like, well, what do you got? It was like, I'm thinking about honoring my grandpa, los abuelos. You know that los abuelos is already taken. And I thought about los compadres, los abuelos, el tío, el don Pedro, like, very, very centered with something that I can relate to directly to my family to honor my grandpa. Um, and we noticed that the industry was already saturated with very similar names, and doing trademark research was like, okay, it's hard to get because it's taken. This is already trademark. And he's like, honestly, man, if you're gonna do something, I think you should do something that you connect with, that you grew up with. What is it? I was like, man. And as you can see, I'm full of tattoos. I have a few lowrider bikes. I drove 69 Volkswagen in high school, dropped, the whole thing. So I was around that, the whole culture, the movement. And we're brainstorming ideas of names, it's like, man, it's gotta be something down, like it's gotta be something firme, it's like,
Bam.
that's it. And it just clicked, man. It's like, it's just shooting, basically ideas. And honestly, I gotta give you, Julian, Bruno, credit, brother. Salucita. Thank you for pushing me to be original. And he's like, it's gotta be something that it's gonna stand out on the shelves. We're gonna be sharing shelf space with billion-dollar companies. And just the fact that your bottle could be next to some of these brands, it's gotta stand out in one way or the other. And not only for the look, like any company or any logo or any brand is still a process. We can relate to Apple when they started to their logo. Now it changed so many times throughout the years. So we know for a fact that eventually my label, my logo could change in a way in the next few years, right? But the essence of the name, it
Right.
remains. That's what carries. That's the legacy that we want to build.
And it's very authentic. And that's one thing that's very cool. Like it's like you're mentioning, it connects to you outward to the community, right? So I think it's a really cool, authentic way. It's almost like, I don't want to say it's a natural sell, but you're able to connect and you draw a lot of community.
True, very true. And we like to think that we call it a reverse branding. Typically, brands that come from Mexico, they're gonna reflect something that it's coming from Mexico, a last name, somebody's ranch, el ranchito, el caballito, el agave, el maguey, your grandpa's last name. But we kind of did a reverse branding where we focus on a name that has a culture and a movement here in not specifically California, but in the United States. We took it back to Oaxaca. We built a product around it, and then we brought it back. And the word firme, if you think about the reverse branding that I'm talking about, in Spanish, the word firme means a lot of things. Something firme, well done, good foundation, solid, right? But if you bring that word to the U.S., and it has a completely different meaning. Like your podcast, brother, it's firme. It's badass, basically. You see a lowrider car, you see a Lamborghini or whatever that might be. It's like, hey, that car it's firme. It has a lot of meaning to it. You talk about a person who's like, hey, Marcos is un vato firme. It's trustworthy and loyal. You can, depend on him. You see a nice looking lady. Hey, that girl's firme. Oh, she's cute. She's hot. So it has a lot of meaning. Once you start, peeling up the layers of the word itself, and you come up with something that connects to someone out there in one way or the other. not only the word Spanish, the actual word firme means firme, sólido, bien hecho, buena estructura. But you bring it into the US and it just explodes, man, into something unique, original that hasn't been done in the spirits world, you know.
Right.
So for that, I mean, that itself, it's something that we're super proud, man, and it's still developing as we go.
That's
you know,
dope.
which is incredible.
Firme.
It's
That's
firme.
right on, man. I like that. I'm gonna put us back with this bottle. Move on to another one.
Absolutely, let's do it.
Next, and
You're kidding me. You actually did the whole shot.
I did. I liked it. No pressure too. We don't gotta go all the way down in our shots. But next we have the Tobalá. Is there a story behind the Tobalá, and tell us about what we'll be tasting?
Believe it or not, this is the second variation of the label in the bottle. I should have brought the original bottle that we launched 4.5 years ago, which out of the entire lineup that we have with Firme, Tobalá was the only bottle that came in a black bottle. And the label just kind of popped, you know. You see the white label with the gold writing over a black bottle, and it just became very elegant, you know, something that I was so proud of, you know. And unfortunately, we ran out of those bottles, so we decided to emergency batch on the regular traditional bottles because we didn't have enough for the next import. And Tobalá for me is just an agave that it's very special. There's something about it that it's elegant, the elixir of the gods, they say. It's a very small plant that it yields very little product. You end up with a little bowling ball size piña, and it's just an agave that even before I had my own brand that I just loved and kind of levitated. It didn't matter what brand was out there. It was like, you have any Tobalás? Like, oh yeah, give me a Tobalá. So, that's what I appreciate. And that was actually the third SKU or the third expression that we launched after the first two. It was our Tobalá.
Awesome. And one thing that's really cool is right now going back and like selecting your next expression or the next maguey that you're going to work with. Let's go back a little bit and tell us about your Maestro Mezcalero. You mentioned it's your partner. And what was that like? What was it like selecting the Maestro, the Palenque, the region you wanted to work with? What did that look like?
Y saludcita. That also goes for hopefully a second episode because that story is also pretty crazy.
Cool. Yeah, we definitely have a second episode coming because we had some pre-chat.
Yeah, definitely want to hear that story. And I went out to Oaxaca, middle of COVID. The whole world was shut down. I flew out to Oaxaca with Bruno Julian, my friend. We got screened to get into Oaxaca. To every pueblo, there were guards. So we just literally hired a driver, and we drove around the pueblos in Oaxaca looking for our palenque, for our partner, our producer. We went to some old school maestros mezcaleros. This is what I have. Either you buy the lot or you don't buy anything. I was like, oh, thank you, sir. Gracias. We drove to the next pueblo. We ended up, trying to make some deals. Nothing came out because they had batches that they wanted to sell, and that's it. I didn't have no input in the brand or in the production. So we were out there for a while, just bouncing around pueblos in the middle of COVID, imagine, with soldados on the streets. And then we ended up in Santiago, Matatlan, La Cuna del Mezcal, and you see smoke literally in every house. Every house is producing mezcal out there. I don't know how or exactly we ended up in Jorge Aron's old distillery because we kind of outgrew that distillery as a Palenque. We have a new one. That's for the second episode. And we walked in, they introduced us, and it turns out that this guy is fluent in English. Never been to the U.S. Young Maestro Mezcalero, third generation. Estudió ingeniería, agrónomo, educated in the field of agaves, agriculture, fluent in English. And I thought he probably lived here in the U.S. somewhere. Like, no, I never been to the U.S. Nunca ido a Estados Unidos. Like, wow. So that right there, younger mentality, hungry to succeed in the industry and to revive the palenque that his dad and his grandpa literally worked 50, 60 years before him. We ended up going to the palenque, the original palenque, adobe walls, underground fermentation tanks from back in the day. And he had some partners that were helping him launch the Palenque, and we just clicked. We decided to, do business with them, to do the first lots of Espadín, and Ensamble wasn't even a thing because he actually helped me, develop that batch. And as a new entrepreneur in the industry, we thought that the only thing that we can import was literally Espadines. That's it. But once you're out there, like, oh, we have this. Like, you keep falling more and more in love with the whole process in the industry. And we did our first lot of Espadín. We sold through it, not quite fast, but it was very small. And then we started flying back to Oaxaca more and more. And it was like, hey, let's do something a little more intricate. Have anything with Tobalá? I love Tobalá. Yeah, of course, check it out. Gave me a special plastic jug of Tobalá, and I was like, wow, it's incredible.
And when you're and I don't mean to cut you off, but I think with what you're saying is when you were working with him, how much of it was seeing his process, liking what you were having, and then how does that lead into like the ensamble? You said that was a batch that you did under your Maestro Mezcalero. So how's does that fall in line with the continuation of your story here?
Mostly because I wanted to do something with the Tobalá. I couldn't afford a full batch of Tobalá. Obviously, it's a little more expensive than producing Espadines. So I was like, what if we do a mix? And they're like, yeah, it's called an ensamble. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, cool. Let's do an ensamble then. All right, let's batch it up. Let's cook it up. We're going to do the raw piñas of Tobalás, raw piñas of Espadines. We're going to cook it the same way under the same tapada. And 5 days after, 6 days after, whatever Maestro Mezcalero special touches, we're going to uncover it. We're going to grind it in the tajona with Teresita, the horse that we still have. And she's still working. And, we crushed those agaves. You can peel it off. As you know, you can literally peel it off the penca once it's cooked, and you just eat it like sugar cane, bro, like delicious. And we was like, we're going to batch everything from zero. We're going to batch it raw. We're going to cook it. We're going to grind it. We're going to, ahora sí que, sacarle los azúcares con tajona. And we're going to ferment it together. We're going to do everything together, from zero to fermentation to distillation. And we were out there, man. It was like explaining to me, how do the ABVs work? How do you level that out? How do the puntas come out? All that stuff. And I think that we ended up with something very special, man. Honestly, for me, it's the best because I had a little touch of input, of at least throwing the piñas in the horno, And we ended up launching the first two imports, the big imports with the Espadines and Tobalás. I thought that just with those two, I was able to be super happy and launch this business. But once you're out there, you start noticing, like, oh yeah, what else we have? You're like, the next stop is gonna be a Tobalá, and people became more and more, I would say, eager to try something different agaves. And eventually it was like, okay, let's time it. Now this is a business. We got to phase it out. We can't just go crazy because, we're a small company. We got to buy bottles, corks, labels. And then we ended up, buying basically a bottling equipment to do our own bottling. And for the second episode, it's imported by Baja United Imports, which was a lucky break for me as well. So we kind of control all the aspects of that. And then we started phasing out a calendar for the next batches.
And was that like a learn as you go, or would you say a lot of the experience you had in the industry or you know what I mean? Like getting the import stuff figured out and the bottling. That's awesome.
Everything was learned as you go. I had no idea. All I knew is that I like mezcal. I had no idea how to import it, how to produce it, how to file for, legalities, much less in Mexico or in the U.S. But I have a guardian angel, I like to call that, show me the ropes in the U.S. and also line me up with the Mexico part of it. Because even Maestro Mezcalero wasn't certified. We have to go through FDA certifications, for the CRM, Consejo Regulador Mezcal. They have to be certified to be called mezcal and to have the marbetes. We got to do the process that obviously being a small producer didn't have. So we helped each other. He helped me by producing the amazing mezcal, Firme Mezcal, when we helped him lining up, all the legalities for the Palenque. That now it's a full on production.
That's awesome how it went mutual. Like
Mutual.
it helps. And you mentioned he's your partner in the
So
brand,
during
right?
the whole process, we decided to, like, hey George, I just I don't want to buy the juice. I want you to be part of it. I see
Beautiful.
how hard you and your family are working, and we're gonna reap the benefits together whenever that time is. And and what do you think? It was like, I would love it. No one has offered me that. Basically, they just want to buy the product. They want to lowball it and buy the juice, take it somewhere else and bottle it. It's like, no, let's keep the bottling in-house. Why are we going to pay somebody else? So we started doing everything, you give me something, I give you something, collaborating. And eventually we ended up with this great partnership. Like, I showed up and said, Jorge, I want you to be part owner of this. And he was just blown away. It's like, are you serious? Like, if these things takes off, man, in 10, 15 years, because I know that brands can reach that level. That's for the second episode, because I have a crazy story. It could happen. And the people that helped me, which was, my primo Carlos, all the credit to my wife, of course, since the beginning, Bruno Julian, my brother in Mexico that lives in Guadalajara, was helping with the logistics because I couldn't just fly back and forth. So I got a lot of people behind it involved, and each one of those people that were part of that process, I share them. I gave him a share of the company, a percentage of the company. It could be next month, it could be next year, it could be in 10 years, 20 years, who knows? But we have the certainty, la creencia, and the faith that this could be something that eventually could be worth a lot in the future, man. And everyone that gave me support, I want them to be part of it.
I love that. I love that you say like making a part of that, because in mezcal culture and everything, like everything is familiar, right? Like everything from the harvest, from you know the harvest, planting the guys, like everything, to the final product. And so I think that's an awesome, and I commend you for that, of like including the maestro and say, hey, we're doing this together. Like you said, I'm not just buying the juice.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's something, and Marco, that's something that a lot of people don't know. And we, my cousins there, we are witness that once the mezcal industry kind of blew up here in the U.S., we faced a lot of, I wouldn't say haters, backlash. No, I wouldn't say that. I would just say a lot of, what's the right word, man? Not support. Not very supportive. They thought that we were just another brand out there that had maybe would like to think a cool idea for a name, but they don't know the story behind it. They don't know that we're family. Maestro Mezcalero, it's owner of the brand as well. He owns the brand. Our familia, my wife, my cousin, Bruno, everyone that my brother in Mexico that was part of the beginning with no pay whatsoever. And we gave it all to be out there grinding, flying to Oaxaca, working with the familia of Jorge. People don't know that. They just assume that, we just launched the brand, but they don't know the story behind it. And, this is a great opportunity for me to tell the story. And this is important. There's a lot of gatekeepers. There's a lot of mezcal police out here that, they didn't give us a chance. They didn't give us the credit because they didn't know the story. So this is very important for me to tell the story, and hopefully they understand that we're just not a brand. We're building a community around our family, and that's very important for people to know.
I love that, and because it's, again, I commend you for that, because again, it's not just like putting the name, because that's already a big step too. When we see a lot of different brands coming out and everything, like a big step is transparent on the bottle, putting who the Maestro Mezcalero is, because a lot of times brands won't even do that, but they're becoming more conscious of that and putting. But the next step, I think, is what you're doing here, and like you said, it's like they own the brand too. Like they have ownership, and it's going right back to the community. And like
people don't know that. People assume that we're just buying bulk mezcal from someone, and that's not the fact. We control every aspect of our production. Even though we're still a small company, we grow our agaves. We kind of outgrew the Palenque. We built a 15 still Palenque now, starting with only 2. We grow more agave. We harvest wild agave, semi-wilds like Tobalá, Tepeztates, and now we bottle it ourselves. Since the beginning we did that, and big part of the process that we also control the import and the distribution. So we kind of keep everything in house, as much as we can.
I'm gonna come into a question with that, and before that, I want you to pick the next mezcal on the lineup here.
I think that we should do our destilado de Mandarina Cempasúchil, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Cool. And then when you go into that, I am gonna go into the next question off our last part of the conversation, which is, the community and the family and stuff, which I think those are great values that you are imparting into the brand. And it's like I saw that a lot of it's honoring culture, honoring family and your heroes. What would you say attributes that to you as a person, that goes to your brand? Who are your heroes? Who do you carry these values through?
I honestly think that part of the branding behind it, and I think I kind of venture away from the actual the purpose of the brand. It's a firme brand because we connected somehow, some way along those, growing up. Yeah, it's a big pour. And part of it, it's Chicanos are not just cholos, man. They're just not gangsters. They're not just the bald-headed guys that people are scared of. You could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be an attorney, and you can be a judge, you can be an artist, a singer, a rapper. They're out there, man. And being a Chicano, it's not just a niche, it's a culture, it's a movement. And part of the branding, there's three elements that resonate a lot in the branding, which is obviously art. We try to come up with beautiful labels. Eventually, we're going to get better and better because now we're creating more buzz around it, and people want to collab. They're reaching out to me like, hey, let me work with you. And before, I was like the one begging, And there's three elements: that culture, the center of the calendario azteca, kind of morphed into Agaves, Piñas, F Old English. It's very traditional in tattoos and art. I have it on my body, I have it on my back, my last name. The word firme, of course, would represent something, being down as a Chicano. The center of the calendario azteca kind of changed into, in the agave industry, agaves, piñas, center with the F Old English. And of course, if you turn it, maybe not on this bottle because we'll talk about that label, is a praying hands. You have it in your shirt. It's faith, religion. It's a culture. It's family oriented, that we're very religious. That came from my abuelita, my mom. Virgencita, San Judas Tadeo. So I can't say that every Chicano family is very religious, but at least we see it everywhere. We see it on the freeways. We see it in tattoos. We see it in art. We see it in the culture. So those are the three elements, which is art, religion, which is not really digging into the religion itself, but it's just what it means. And then obviously it's just art. And part of it was that we eventually, and I'll explain this label in a bit, and I'll give him credit. It's collabing with artists, collabing with people in the Chicano world that are professionals in their fields, doctors, teachers, professors, muralists, tattoo artists, judges. And we want to give eventually a platform, to storytell the story of success for them, and that was part of the branding. That this label itself, it's something that started as a special batch, very limited. We only did 150 bottles, Cali, or 150 bottles the first lot, and that was for Dia de Muertos 2023. We decided to do a very special release, only 150 bottles. And we ended up working with an amazing artist called, happens to be the same last name as me, and local artist from Santa Ana. And I reached out to him on Instagram, Miguel Ochoa. Reached out to him, he responded, and I went up to his studio and said, hey, I want to do a special box. Are you down to work with me? He's like, absolutely, brother. Like, what do you need? Like, we actually launched this bottle in a very limited box, hand drawn by the artist. And I give him credit. We're gonna do a story about you, who you are. And he's actually more famous than Firme, the brand. He has like 80,000 followers on Instagram. He does tattoos by appointment for artists like Justin Bieber and all those guys, man. And he's just, he actually did the whole box. So we did this batch for only 150 bottles, and we literally sold out in a month. Like, they were gone. It was like, oh man, people want it, and we sold out. Reach out to my Maestro Mezcalero. Was like, hey man, we have any more? We're like, yeah, we have another 500 liters. What do you want to do? Like, send me another 300 bottles. So we just rushed it, and those 300 bottles were gone again. So like, okay, we're onto something special here with this batch,
Yeah.
and it's coming in this cool little box. None of those bottles out there came in this box. So we saw a lot of success with this with this batch. And people were like, where can I find it? Where can I find it? Where can I get it? So we're like, okay, I think that we should keep it part of the familia, as a full-time expression on the. And ever since 2023, we decided to keep it for the year long, and it's one of our best sellers as well.
And so is this something that somebody could get year round, or do you reserve the batches for the temporada de los Muertos?
Now we batch it enough to keep production for the whole year.
Okay.
So basically, instead of 150 bottles, we doubled it up to 300. On the second batch, we doubled it up. So the first release, we ended up doing like 600, 700 bottles as back to back to back instead of one batch. So now we actually produce, when it's Dia de Muertos, we get our Cempasúchiles. We soak them in espadín. And so the espadín is soaked in Cempasúchil. I'm not going to tell you the whole recipe or the secret because they can steal it from us. So we actually have the jugs with the Cempasúchil is soaking in the espadín, the first distillation process of the espadín. So if you actually get a little copita and you get into the barrel, the mezcal is actually orangey, porque it's soaked with the flor de Cempasúchil. For those of people that know that flor de Cempasúchil is Marigold.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the second distillation, we add the mandarinas, the peels, the fruit. Jorge Aron does his magic with it, special touches here and there. And we ended up with this special batch, man, that is just, it became a fan favorite. And it's actually coming in at, 48 ABV, which is, has a pretty good kick. You wouldn't notice it or feel it, but trust me, it'll get to you. What do you think about the aroma?
Oh man, the aroma, it's fantastic. I get right away, I get the mandarin. And on the Cempasúchil, I'm lying if I say like, I smell marigold, right? But it's definitely some sort of floral aroma, but it's very sweet smelling. The flavor, what I like too, is that it carries over to the flavor.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's some mezcales that you smell something and you taste something different.
Yeah.
And they're all sometimes different. This, I get.
You can smell it and you can linger the mandarina.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the flor de Cempasúchil is not so much of a smell because it's overpowered by the mandarinas. For me, on the second, en el retrobusto, I feel it on the back of my tongue, which is something very dry and bold.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's the Cempasúchil coming through. But, the citrusy, it kind of overpowers, that a little bit.
And it's mandarina y Cempasúchil.
Mandarina Cempasúchil, and thinking if I should say the secret ingredient.
No, you don't have to. It's
a proprietary recipe.
You got to try it and guess and leave it in the comments what you guys
leave it in the comments, see what you find in there.
I think this is a really great batch too, especially a
fourth batch.
A fourth?
We launched it, yeah, because we just bam.
And I like that it was so in demand that like you're able to get it year round so people could taste it, and maybe it's something that you reserve on the shelf, right? Like
it became something that people were asking us, what is it? I was like, oh, it's like a pechuga, because we add something to the distillation process. So we're like, oh, it's like a vegetarian pechuga, and it kind of became a thing, like, I guess so. So vegetarian pechuga or vegan pechuga. Technically pechuga means meat in the process.
So like a destilado con.
Mm-hmm. But people that don't know those terms are like, oh, it's like a pechuga con Mandarinas and Cempasúchil. Like, I guess so. It's same process, but different ingredients.
Right now, this one for sure has my mouth feel is like numb. And I always mention that one of my favorite things in like mezcales and spirits is that mouth feel, the tingly and that numbing. And this one hit for sure.
That's delicious. Honestly, it became a fan favorite. People are doing palomas. A paloma with this, man, no joke, it will take your paloma to the next level. It
Yeah, I can see
goes
that.
the citrusy of a traditional paloma. You substitute your tequila with this, man. Honestly, it's gonna be like we're into something good.
Talking about like doing cool collaborations with other artists and persons that you want to like work with on the brand, this being something that you worked on that developed into something more, right? Like the demand for it creating more. And I'm asking this question leading into the next mezcal, whether we want to grab something from there or if you want to introduce something else, because the question is, what kind of things do we have to look forward to from FIRME, coming off of the great like feedback and reception from the community and people now loving the brand? Because you mentioned earlier, which was interesting to me, like there was a time when in a small part where you said like there wasn't the support, right? And once people start to know the brand, getting it out there, people really know the origin story and what the brand's about. Now moving forward with positive feedback, things are going well. What can we expect to see?
Like anything in life, you start removing layers of things, and then things start morphing into something that you probably didn't even think about. And you were part of the process. I'm happy to say that I share one of those little cajitas with 3 bottles, which we noticed that if we don't pay attention to a specific expression when we launch it and give it the care and the love, it's just gonna be so many different options that people might not connect with one. So the reason that we did, and we should have brought it. You got one. We did a little cajita gift box with 3 expressions. And what we thought is like, okay, let's see which people prefer, kind of what people levitate towards, and let's give them 3 expressions coming exactly at the same ABV. So you can say you like this one more because it's 49, or you like this one more because it's a 48, 47. We decided to keep all of them at the same alcohol level or content or ABV or proof. And we decided to do something that it's maybe a few other brands I've seen that started doing: a Pulquero, Tepeztate, and a Madrecuishe. We decided to do those 3 little pachitas, 375 bottles, get that opportunity to put them in a nice cool box, also designed by a local kid, OG kid from LA. Carlos was part of the photo shoot. We went to the Elysian Park. We did a full-on photo shoot with him. OG, that tells you he's an OG kid. He dresses like he's in a suit from the 70s, 60s, 50s, full-on crease pants, guayabera, slick hair. He has a very cool old car. And he lives that part. He lives that culture. He dresses like that every day. So when we reached out, we decided that the Pachita box was going to be designed around him. So if you see the back of the box, that's a real picture of follow him on Instagram, is OG Kid. And, Carlos did a full content photo shoot with him. And we send out those boxes. You were part of that process. We send them out to influencers. We went to our demos, tastings, and we just put out the bottles like, tell us what you think. They're all the same ABV, so you're not gonna say, oh, this one's too strong, or this one's too light. Equal comparison, and people kind of levitated towards Tepeztate. Like, oh, Pulquero is very unique, but Tepeztate, it's special. A lot of people like Tepeztate. It's like, all right, so the next release will be our Tepeztate. Let's give that the focus. It just literally crossed the border a month and a half ago, and so the next one that we're kind of pushing on the Familia expressions will be our Tepeztate. And then eventually we're going to be releasing the next ones as popularity kind of, demanded. It's like Al Pulquero and then Madrecuishe.
So we'll still see the other ones because they were all great. I remember when we shot those, they were.
They will be released. We just want to give each expression a fair chance, in the market to be, thank you for the for showcasing our product. And now that we're finally have this product out in the market, there's a very few stores that have that picked up that product. I'll give them a plug at the end so you guys can go find it.
Yeah.
And then eventually, very small batch also, only 300 bottles. And once it's gone, it's gone. And then into the next batch. The next batch will be the Pulquero. And then eventually a Madrecuishe at the end. And then if we decide to keep going, as you know, you're in the field of mezcal, you can end up with 50 bottles, man. Like, honestly, you can do destilados con, you can do avocados, you can do this, you can do ensambles. So you can actually end up with 50 bottles. But who are you going to pay attention to? Which is going to be your biggest seller? At the end, it is a business, and then a lot of the pushback that I got in the industry, which there's a lot of people out there, I'm not going to say any names, influencers in social medias, that I reached out and I was literally begging them to give me 5 seconds of their time to just open the bottle and let me know what you think. It seemed I'm on a good track. I got a lot of pushback. I got a lot of no answers, basically.
What would you say the pushback was? Or like, I mean, you said no names, right? But like the pushback, what did you get? Or what was your takeaway from the pushback? And like, what kind of pushback was it, would you say?
People expect, when it comes to mezcal or agave spirits, they expect, I guess, a name that resonates with the cultural part of it. Maybe they wanted a Zapotec name, last name, something that relates directly to Mexico. There's a lot of mezcal out there that I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
That are very, very cool names, very authentic Zapotec.
A lot of heritage.
Heritage brands, which is cool. I love it. But I would be lying to myself if I launch a brand that I just don't have no connection with. Now that became just a business, but this is something that part of me, part of us, part of my family, my community. And that's something that I want to tell the story, that people don't know, that they just think or assume that it was just a name that was thrown out there and has no meaning whatsoever to me.
And I think the importance, going back to our earlier topic that you mentioned, your connection with your maestro, their family, and the community, and how involved they are in the brand, again, that speaks numbers, because you could have heritage brands that go back and just buy the juice. You buy the juice from the right person, you buy the juice from the right name.
Juice, yeah.
But what you're doing, again, making it not personal. It is a personal brand to you, but true to your community, here to there.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I was heartbroken, man. I looked up to a few of these guys when they were 500 followers on Instagram. Now they're blown up. And, I hand deliver bottles to their doorsteps. I actually took the bottles to the doorsteps, and I was expecting some sort of a post or something. Not that I was expecting, I was hoping. Never came. And he literally comments like, "Oh, I just don't connect with the brand. I just like, you don't have to connect, man. Just tell me how the juice is, that's it." There's a lot of brands out there that I don't care for the name, but I love the product. I love the quality of the product. I love Japanese whiskey. Doesn't mean that I know Japanese, man. I still drink it. I still think it's great. And I was heartbroken. Carlos is part of it. It's like, hey, man, I gotta let this know that I was disappointed that my own community didn't give me the chance. And up until now, there's a lot of groups out there that didn't give me the chance. I was never invited to podcasts. I was never invited to, demos or tastings. They bypassed my booth, believe it or not. And it hurts. We were doing 5 demos, maybe a month. And I would see certain groups out there, with their cool t-shirts and stuff, and they would literally bypass my table.
You would see yeah.
I would see them, man. Like, I know they're bouncing around to this mezcal. They're coming. They're like, oh, like, what the heck? Like, what are we doing wrong? They're like,
yeah.
What did we do or say something wrong? And to someone, they're like, no, it's just their excuse, but like, oh, we don't connect with the brand. Like, You don't have to connect with the brand, bro. Just taste my freaking mezcal and let me know what you think.
And try. Yeah, taste the
Try it.
mezcal.
That's
Try
it.
to
And literally, that's the words. The words. Oh, I don't connect with the brand. I don't connect with what it means, it represents, because they expected something that it was cultural. Like,
yeah.
this is my culture. I grew up with this. Look at me. Look at my body. Look at my car. Look at my bikes. This is something that it represents me. And now, it really hurt, man, that my young community, people that I was looking forward to connect and tell my story, I didn't get a chance to, and now things are a little better, I guess.
They're better.
They're better.
I was gonna ask next is like, when have you noticed that change? And I'm sure there's like a moment of
Acceptance.
acceptance, or like not affirmation, but like I'm at a loss for words. What's the word I'm looking for? Not reassurance, but just affirming, like the affirming moment that, like, okay, maybe that kind of, like you mentioned, it hurt, and it's like, hey, that was like an interesting take, like, why is this happening? But there's an affirming moment that you are doing something good. You do have good product. You are authentic. You do have something real. Like, is that moment, I mean, what about that moment? Because I'm sure that has come.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
it came obviously from someone like you guys, man. Like, you guys were super responsive since day one. And it's something that we can collab and grow together and tell our stories, and give me a space to tell my story. And for that, I'm very grateful, and I will forever be thankful and grateful for this opportunity. And this is something that people should know. People got to understand that I'm just not a brand. I'm building something that really connects to the back end of my history. Like you mentioned at the beginning, my mom is from Puebla. It's a estado that produces mezcal. My grandpa was from Zacatecas, and my dad was from Michoacan, and my abuelita from Guerrero. They're all mezcal producers, man. They're part of the denomination of origen, of origin, all of them. And guess what? Morelos, where I'm from, is now part of the denominación de origen. It just got, part of that process, which is incredible, And then telling to my primos, like, we gotta launch now. Since I couldn't do something with my grandpa's legacy, now that Morelos is part of the denominación de origen del mezcal, we should find a producer in Morelos that we produce something local, and we call it mis raíces de mi familia, man. Something like that, We'll go crazy. We gotta drink enough mezcal to come up with that. Something like that, yeah.
And I like how it circles back like that, and
Incredible,
it
right? It's
continues to develop. You know what I mean?
It's still developing.
Tradition, a lot of times, it's a word that's used because is a traditional drink, but at the same time, like, I think people forget that tradition is alive. Tradition is something that's happening. Tradition is something that sometimes goes through like hard moments where sometimes things aren't accepted, and it's not till 20, 50 years, 100 years later. I mean, so it's interesting to
It kind of
see
go back
these
to
things,
like,
yeah.
this was cool back in the day. So you kind of like connect with it, but 20, 30, 40 years later, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so, really quick, I'm enjoying, before I forget to highlight, the mezcal de Tepeztate is fire right now.
Appreciate
Right now, it, like, talking about the destilado con Cempasúchil y Mandarina, which was like
Completely different, right?
yeah, transparent in the sense that what I said earlier, like, I smell and I taste it.
Yeah.
Here, the aromas, I get that lactic fermentation aroma.
It's incredible.
But when I taste it, it's like very floral. I get a sweetness to it, not like,
Yeah, and I'm glad. I mean, you drink enough mezcales. Obviously, I follow your content. That
Thank you.
That each brand, each category, each agave is gonna give you something unique. And if we can showcase that for a palate as like yours, that you can actually, hopefully taste the difference between, even though we're like 5 mezcales deep right now.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. That's what we're aiming for. That's what we're shooting for, that we create something that it's quality, that people's money that it's hard earned will, end up supporting a small brand like ours, and in return they're gonna get something that it's rich, that it's original, that it's unique, and most important, that it's good firme mezcal. That's our goal. That's our goal at the end. But saludcita. Thank you for the Tepeztate, brother. Salud.
We'll wrap up here, dude. Yes, that's why the Tepeztate was picked. Really quick, just kind of off topic. I think I'm the only one that doesn't like.
Actually, that became like a thing. I don't know why. I guess seeing it around the industry.
Yeah, I like sometimes like I want to
feel like
do
you gotta
it.
tap it.
Yeah, and my brother started doing it a while ago, and then I'm just noticing. I'm like, where does that come from? So I need to start asking people why.
Typically we do like, hey, this is one for the homies.
Yeah, but then got to stand under it like that.
Before we wrap it up, I brought some. I know that we have a go off script a little bit. And one of those long mezcal nights with Jorge in El Palenque in Oaxaca, just shooting the shit and talking the industry in mezcal, and basically telling my stories about how the industry works in the U.S. He's never been to the U.S., and how disappointed it was in certain people, certain groups that I felt like that they didn't give me the the time of the day. And we have a little still that is 5 gallons. Literally, instead of those gigantic, we put a little stove on the bottom. We put the still, and we do the fermentation. We get the base of espadín, and we do some destilados con. And one morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, after a long night of research, he's like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "You know what? Something crazy. Una pechuga con, porque el de mandarina was a whole, success. Let's do a pechuga, like a real pechuga. What are you guys like? Oh, I got some deer, that we can get. We got some guajolote or turkey that we can get." I was like, that's been done. Let's do something that is kind of weird and we can do right now. Let's do some conejo, like conejo silvestre, like some wild conejo. And we're in the hills of Oaxaca, so they're out there, So you can imagine that we ended up hunting a conejo.
All right.
And he had mole. Mole is obviously abundant in Oaxaca. So it's like, we got some tostado or maíz tostado also there. Let's do something crazy. So you can imagine we started batching some destilados con mole, destilado con conejo, destilado con maíz tostado. And I know we're kind of going off script, but I brought some pretty cool stuff for you to try. It's very funky and unique. We're probably never going to market with this because it's, I wouldn't say complex, but it's such different.
Yeah.
Just wait until you try it, man. Let me know what you think.
Let's do it. So you mentioned, you got the maíz con conejo. We got 50% ABV here. Conejo silvestre.
Conejo y maíz tostado. Ese es un destilado. We wanted to do like a variation of our famous Mandarina Cempasúchil. So we did some hoja santa, some té de limón, and we ended up doing some cítricos. We call it cítricos because it's not specifically just lime. We did some naranjas, toronjas, cítricos, té de limón.
Okay.
And we ended up calling it cítricos. And, let me know what you think. And this one here, it's mole oaxaqueño, mole negro. We actually put a whole batch of mole, and we just kind of let it do its thing, maíz tostado. And this one's coming at 48 ABV. So,
man, if we were live, I'd be like, right now, which one should we try? Because we got, is that your
this
copita?
This is the copita.
And then
this one's still good. But we gotta give some to the gentleman back here, so they gotta try this funky stuff.
Yeah, what do we? Which one? We got a menu here, so it's like the card. So, what do you?
They're all very unique, man. They're all funky. They're all you being in the Mezcal bus, because I think we're kind of feeling the bus already. Take your pick. The first one.
Jack's gonna go with the mole.
Spicy.
Mole negro.
Mole negro.
I like getting stuff. It's like when you bring stuff back, like in the plastic bottles or unmarked bottles, right? You gotta remember what they are. Go, Jack.
And as you can see, we actually use a Sharpie.
Mm-hmm.
But with every they were full. So with every sip, like if you go like this, look, it's kind of rushing out. So like, all right, I'd rather put I know there's a brand out there, the famous green tape.
Yeah.
So credit to them.
Green tape gang. You guys, I'm right here.
Let me see. I didn't get one, brother.
Well, I'm deciding which one.
You haven't poured one for yourself yet. Oh, I thought you already sipped it and all.
Should we all do mole and maíz?
The conejo is funky, bro. The conejo one.
Let's go with the funky.
Conejo is kind of gamey, and it's like I said, we probably won't ever go into market, but you never know. We'll probably do a very small batch, and if you go, we'll start posting some of those early morning batches that we did with a conejo. We'll post it on Instagram. Give us a follow, Firme Mezcal on Instagram, and we'll do some photos of that special batch with the conejo, the rabbit, the maíz tostado. It was coming up at 70, the puntas at 70, so we're like the dripping and throwing in the fire. Like, incredible.
One thing that's cool, before we taste it, is like the way this even developed. I think is special that you mentioned. Is like you have your small still. You're there with Jorge. You're hanging out. You're there with him. Like again, you said it in the beginning. We said it before. You're not just there buying the juice or like say, hey, what do you got? Make me something and send it over. Like
what batch?
You're there hanging out. Like, what are we gonna do? Let's try this. And the story about like, let's go get some rabbit.
That's crazy.
Let's put the rabbit in here.
We went to the mercado and bought maíz and chiles and all that stuff. So is it funky or not?
Yeah, it is. Oh yeah.
A lot of corn, obviously, but it's gamey, right? It's hard to describe, honestly. Did you get the rabbit one? Mole. All right, it's a little spicy, right? Yeah.
Is there any mandarina in it also? No.
Mandarina, no. And I can show you I'm gonna show you the pictures right here, and I'll post them on our Instagram so you can see it.
Going in for the kill.
So your followers don't think that I'm lying. You'll literally see conejo here, bro. You let me know if it's true or not.
Oh, look at I'm sad. Look at oh man.
Look at that.
Looks tasty actually.
I don't know if we can see it on the
He's smart. He has that private screen. I can't see it no more.
Look at that. See the conejo there?
And in the 5 gallon still, you put all the whole conejo, or would you put just the legs?
Yeah, pieces. Yeah, literally una piernita.
So luego también se comieron un mole con conejo.
Un mole con conejita. Look at that.
Yeah, it's nice.
I'll make sure to post this on our Instagram. People are gonna freak out.
Yeah, and we'll post it so we could see.
With the disclaimer or something.
Cool.
What do you think?
Well,
weird, huh?
No, it's
unique.
So good.
Oof.
I get like a chocolatey taste too.
Chocolatey, huh? Like coffee, like
yeah,
almost, right? And there's no chocolate.
No, this is special.
What do you think? We should do a batch of it or not?
Oh yeah, if you guys, I recommend this should be a batch. You should do that again. You should have another late night of research of this.
A late night session, yeah. You got to try the rabbit one, bro. Yeah. This is weird. This is unique.
Well, I want to say very, very special thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I want to open it up. If there is any last comments you'd like to say, definitely look out for a second episode with you, because I think there's a lot of great topics that we can discuss and share with the audience over some great mezcales. So again, Thank you, and open it up if you'd like to mention any last words.
Thank you. Obviously, I want to give credit to everyone that's involved in part of the process of Firme. First, of course, my wife. She supports me with all my crazy ideas and all my crazy adventures. no matter what we're going through. So, all the credit to my beautiful wife, everyone that has been part of this process, from Bruno to my cousins Carlos and Carlos. If you guys are in our demos, you'll see my cousins Carlos and Carlos helping me on the booths, or the demo booths. My brother, of course, Daniel in Guadalajara, that is very supportive with all the logistics, purchases, export, import, all that stuff that makes the process of Mexico possible. Of course, to Jorge, our Maestro Mezcalero, for believing in the project and sticking around and now being full on part of the project, part of the process. And everyone out there that has supported us in any way or form throughout the years by coming to our booths, giving us a follow on Instagram, tagging us, for wearing our merch. We have a lot of ideas of working with artists, to create some cool hats. This kind of became the favorite, so we kind of stuck with it. It's about brand recognition, brand, right? So anyone that has come up to either say hello, to enjoy a sip, of course, to my team in Arizona, no mas, thank you, brother, for being those boots on the ground out in Phoenix, which is a very supportive market. It's our biggest market, believe it or not even here in LA, but in Phoenix, it's you go out on the streets and you see people walking around with t-shirts and hats. So like, I don't even know how they got that, but they're walking around. It's a very cool feeling, man. So, give us a follow on Instagram, Firme Mezcal, give us a follow. If you have any merch, any stuff that you got, in our demos and our events, festivals, tag us, shoot us a line, obviously tag Mezcal Buzz here, and let's continue to grow, man. Let's continue to support each other. I don't want to get political in any way or form, but it's, we're going through very rough times as a community, as a family. So now more than ever, we should be supporting each other, and anything that we do in every venture. I'm super grateful and thankful that, I got this invitation finally, from you. And if we can help and collab in any way or form, just count on us, and, let's grow. Let's do this.
Cool.
Appreciate it, brother.
Firme. Thank you.
Saludcita.
Saludcita.
Thank you.
Salud. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for the next episode, because we'll do it again. And as always,
Lots to say.
thank you guys for watching.
Salud. Cheers. You did it.
Almost.
I did it.
The
Cheers, bro.